Everything they promised you was a well-known lie. They told you that modernity represented the pinnacle of human evolution, that technology, global connectivity, and progress would lead you to a full, comfortable, and happy life. But here you are, with an empty soul, wondering why, despite having everything, you feel as if you have nothing. It's not an accident. You are experiencing the greatest paradox of our time. They sold you progress as the ultimate cure for dissatisfaction. However, they never told you that the same progress is a machine for instilling anxiety, alienation, and exhaustion. We live in a world full of technological advancements that promise to make life easier. But the further we progress, the further we get from ourselves. Did you feel it? That uncomfortable feeling at the end of the day when you turn off the screen and are confronted with silence. A silence that reminds you that deep down, you've become just another gear in a never-ending machine. A machine that does not ask if you are happy, but rather ensures that you continue to function. Because this is the brutal truth. The current society was designed to maximize productivity rather than well-being. They prepared you to compete in a race with no finish line, where constant consumption is the fuel and dissatisfaction is the compass that keeps you going. If you were satisfied at peace, you would stop consuming and running. That, for the system, is problematic. They taught you that your value is determined by what you produce, what you buy, and who you appear to be. Human relationships are built on likes, and happiness is a vibrating notification in your pocket. However, each new purchase, each new accomplishment leaves you with a bitter taste, with the silent suspicion that none of this truly fills the void within you. Stop for a moment and consider when you last felt a genuine connection with someone. This is not a quick social media interaction or a superficial exchange of cliches. I'm talking about a genuine, deep connection that makes you forget the time. It's difficult to remember, right? It's not an accident. They've pushed you into such a fast-paced lifestyle that there is no room for introspection or genuine connection. We live in an unsustainable paradox. We've never felt more connected but also more alone. We exchange messages as fast as light, but our souls drift apart. They promised us community, but delivered loneliness disguised as hyperconnectivity. Modernity has also sold us a deceptive story about work. They say that if you do what you love, you'll never have to work again. However, even those who enjoy their jobs often feel trapped in a never-ending cycle. You work to pay for things you don't need, to impress strangers, and to keep up a rhythm that gradually destroys you. It is a vicious cycle. You work harder to earn more, spend more, and feel less empty. But the more you consume, the deeper the inner hole grows. Because consumption, no matter how it is marketed as an escape, was never intended to satisfy the soul. It's a temporary bandage over a wound that requires a different medication. And this is where the part they don't want you to know starts. True happiness and fulfillment are not found in what you accumulate, but in who you become when you let go of everything. When you turn off the screens, block out the outside noise, and dare to listen to the faint murmur of your own interior. It is not easy. It's scary. Introspection is terrifying because it forces you to face questions you've been avoiding for years. It forces you to confront your emptiness, fears, and insecurities. But it's in that brutal silence that you start to find answers. Answers that no algorithm will provide, and no advertisement will sell you. The system does not want you to reach this point. It prefers that you keep running, keeping your mind occupied with small doses of digital dopamine. It prefers that you continue to believe that the next goal, purchase, or external validation will eventually bring you the peace you seek. But I'll be clear, peace does not exist at the end of the race, because the race is an illusion. True peace comes when you decide to step off the beaten path and explore your own authenticity. This is the real rebellion. Disconnect from the noise, disconnect from imposed expectations, disconnect from the illusion of progress that has been imposed on you. The real revolution isn't happening on the streets. It is in your mind. It is about daring to say no. No to overconsumption. No to productivity being the ultimate goal. No to the shallowness of empty relationships. The modern world has transformed life into a never-ending pursuit of ghosts, status, prestige, and accumulation of goods. But when you stop chasing ghosts, they vanish. And when you do, you realize that life, True life is made up of simple but profound moments. A sincere conversation, a knowing look, a conscious pause to breathe and feel your presence. The paradox of modernity is that the more you strive for the promised happiness, the further you get away from it. It's like running toward the horizon. It appears to be within reach, but each step you take pushes it farther away. The solution is not to run faster, but to stop. It's realizing that the race was a trap from the start. You must understand this. True fulfillment is measured in internal peace rather than external achievements, and that peace cannot be bought, downloaded, or gained through likes. It is cultivated. It is built from within, through brutal honesty with oneself. Ask yourself this uncomfortable question. What would you be like if all the noise went away, no one was watching, and you didn't have to prove anything to anyone? The answer to that question is your authentic self. And until you accept that reality, you will remain a slave to a system that thrives on your insecurities. It's time to wake up, question the story they told you, and realize that true freedom comes from needing less rather than having more. True wealth comes from letting go rather than accumulating. Because when you let go, you free yourself. You free yourself from the unseen weight of other people's expectations. You free yourself from worrying about the future. You break free from the constant comparison to lives that only exist in digital showcases. You allow yourself to truly begin living. And only then will you begin to find the fulfillment you have long sought outside of yourself. A quiet, humble accomplishment, but infinitely more satisfying than any external applause. The path is there, waiting for you to find the courage to walk it. It is neither the easiest nor the most traveled path. It's a lonely path at first because few dare to tread it. However, in the end, you will realize that it is the only one that truly matters. So make the decision today. Now get out of the noise, get out of this race. Begin listening to what your soul has been trying to tell you. Because modernity promised you happiness, but you can only give it to yourself. And it is not in the next notification, purchase, or achievement. It has always been inside you. There is, however, something deeper, something rarely mentioned, something quietly pulses beneath all this modern farce. I'm discussing the illusion of control. They manipulated you into believing you had complete control over everything, that with enough information, data, you can plan every step of your life, that you can plan, predict, and manage all variables. The algorithm tells you what to watch, eat, and crave. Everything is perfectly orchestrated to make you feel in control, but the truth is uncomfortable. You have delegated your internal compass to external systems. You have let notifications determine your priorities. Metrics determine your worth. Trends determine your path. You've become a spectator in your own life, hoping for a control panel to ensure your happiness. The irony is brutal. We've never had more access to information, and yet, we've never felt more lost. The excess of options, rather than liberating you, paralyzes you. You suffer from analysis paralysis. There are so many routes that you don't know which one to take. There are so many options that you are afraid of taking the wrong one. They've provided you with maps but taken your compass. Without a compass, each step feels like an unbearable risk. And here's where I want you to stop. Take a look inside yourself. Because this labyrinth of endless possibilities was not designed for you to find your way out. It was designed for you to become lost. Modernity does not want you to reach any goal. It wants you to keep walking without stopping, wasting your strength and forgetting why you started. The absence of internal direction is the greatest poison of this era. They disconnected you from your instincts and taught you to trust algorithms over your own intuition. But intuition, that inner voice you've repeatedly silenced, is the only GPS that never makes a mistake. You've simply let it rust in a dark corner of your mind. The cruelest part is that this machinery has carefully fed your most primal fear, that of falling behind. They've convinced you that competition is your only chance of survival, that if you don't move at the speed of light, you'll be forgotten, crushed beneath the weight of those who kept running. But where are they all running in such desperation? Look closely. They are not pursuing happiness. They're running away from the emptiness they experience when they stop. They're running away from the echo of their own doubts. They're running because they're afraid that if they stop, they'll have to face the harsh reality that they have no idea where they're going. And here is where I present an idea that few are willing to accept. True bravery is not running faster, but having the courage to stop while everyone else is running. Stop and think, question, and listen to the uncomfortable silence that reveals the truths you've been avoiding for so long. Because magic happens when there is silence. That is where you begin to distinguish between what the system wants you to want and what your soul truly requires. That's where you start rebuilding your internal compass, choosing your path not out of fear, but out of purpose. Here's something you may not have considered before. The success they promised you is meant to be unattainable. It's a carrot that remains just out of reach no matter how far you go. Because if you ever get there, if you ever feel truly fulfilled, the system will lose its grip on you. They cannot allow that. They keep you trapped in eternal dissatisfaction, a hamster wheel masquerading as progress. Every time you get close to achieving a goal, the next one is already drawn. There is always more. More money, recognition, and achievements. But there will never be more peace. That, strangely, never makes the list. Do you see it now? You've been trained to confuse movement and progress. However, moving does not always mean progressing. Moving can be a sophisticated way of getting away from yourself. And while you run in circles, you ignore the most valuable asset you have, your time. That finite resource is spent as if it were infinite. They take it from your hands drop by drop, posing as productivity, non-existent urgencies, and manufactured emergencies to keep you obedient. But here's the big reveal. Reclaiming your time means reclaiming your life. It's breaking the invisible bonds that keep you tied to a system that thrives on your exhaustion. It's about getting off autopilot and taking control of your life. This does not imply escaping to the woods or living alone in the world. It entails taking control of your decisions, no longer being a puppet of trends, and becoming the architect of your days. And here's a final question that is uncomfortable but necessary. What would you do with your life if you were completely free today, without the pressures of the system, without the need to please anyone, and without the slavery of external judgment? Answer with brutal honesty, because the answer is the map you've been looking for. But let us go deeper because there is another trap, one that is better hidden than the others, one that, if not unmasked, will follow you until your death. The trap of false identity. Yes, it is a false identity. They've forced you to create a fictitious self-image. They led you to believe that you are your resume, the degrees you've hung on the wall, the accomplishments you've accumulated like plastic medals, your social media numbers, the brand of your car, and the balance in your bank account. And the most dangerous part? They've made you believe it so deeply that you can no longer tell the difference between the mask and your true face. But listen carefully. That is not you. That is the disguise you devised to survive in a world that values appearance over authenticity. Because the system doesn't know what to do with genuine individuals. It has no control over them, no predictability, and cannot use them as fuel for its consumption machine. That is why, since childhood, it has pushed you to fit into the molds set by others. Think about it. They taught you as a child to compete, to stand out, and to conform to the models of success that others defined. They taught you to be efficient, productive, and useful to the system. However, they never taught you to be yourself. They never taught you to listen to yourself, to discover who you are beyond what you do or have. And herein lies the silent poison. The further you move away from your true identity, the greater the emptiness you feel inside. Because you can be successful on the system's terms while failing catastrophically on the terms of your soul. Disconnecting from your true identity is the leading cause of invisible exhaustion you experience every day. You don't know what's causing your chronic fatigue. That feeling of exhaustion that persists regardless of how much you rest. It's not from a lack of sleep, it's from living a life that isn't your own. And if that isn't enough, modernity has mastered the art of distracting you from your discomfort. Because it knows that if you ever stop to seriously consider who you are, if you ever dare to take off the mask, you will discover that you have been playing a role you despise for years. But I've got to tell you something brutal. The role you play may earn you applause, but it will never bring you peace. Applause fades quickly, leaving you alone with your internal echo, with that voice that repeatedly asks, "Who am I really? Who do I live for?" Do you realize the gravity of the situation? We live in a time when people die to be seen, but overlook the importance of seeing themselves. And here comes another critical point: emotional reliance on external recognition. It has become so deeply ingrained in our psyche that we no longer seek validation for satisfaction, but rather for emotional survival. It is almost biological. If we are not approved, we believe we will cease to exist. However, this is a psychological kidnapping disguised as progress. Because the problem is unwilling to be seen, that is human. The problem is that you need to be seen in order to feel valued. That is where the real prison hides, the most sinister part. The more you rely on validation, the easier you are to manipulate, because you become addicted to approval and will do anything for another dose of acceptance. You compromise your principles, dilute your essence, and betray your values in order to fit in. However, I propose another route: detoxification, complete abstinence from external approval. Internal silence is required to reconnect with the only voice that truly matters, yours. Imagine this mental image. Visualize an empty stage. There is no audience, no critics, and no one applauds or boos. You are alone in the middle of your life stage. What would you do? What would you say? What would your role be if no one was watching? Because that is the essence of your genuine freedom. Freedom is not about doing whatever you want in front of others. Freedom means doing whatever you want when no one is looking. Now I'd like to take you to another dark corner few people explore: the infantilization of modern adults. And I'm not saying this to offend you, but to make you understand it with a harsh clarity. Look around you. Observe how we are treated as if we are perpetual adolescents, entertained by expensive toys and constant stimuli that prevent us from emotionally maturing. We are fed with instant gratification and kept busy with trivialities that prevent us from delving into what truly matters. Because an emotionally mature adult does not require constant distractions. A mature adult seeks depth, purpose, and meaning. That is not what the system allows. It prefers to keep us in a state of childish dependence, where any discomfort is quickly alleviated with meaningless entertainment. Think about it. How many times have you felt a tinge of existential dread, only to rush to the nearest distraction to fill the void? Social media, endless series, impulsive purchases, anything to avoid the uncomfortable sting of knowing something doesn't fit. But the sting is your compass. That discomfort is your soul's message to wake up. Do not silence it. Listen to it. Because if you dare to confront your discomfort, it can become your most powerful ally. It could be the spark that ignites your awakening. So, here's a radical proposal. Do not avoid discomfort. Invite it. Sit with it. Ask it what it wants to tell you. Because discomfort is not there to punish you. It is here to free you. And as you begin to do this, as you begin to see discomfort as a sign rather than a threat, you will begin to walk towards terrain that few people have traveled, the realm of genuine inner autonomy. This is where metamorphosis occurs. This is the point at which you stop being a product of modernity and begin to create your own existence consciously. You will no longer be a leaf caught in the wind of external expectations. You will be the tree that grows firm and deep, requiring no movement to demonstrate its strength because its mere existence is sufficient. At this point, you start to live for real. You begin living not to be seen, not to be approved, but to simply exist. Just to be. But before we go, I'd like you to do one final exercise with me. Do not look at the clock. Don't think about the upcoming task or the notifications that are waiting for you. Stay with me for one more moment because we're about to cross the threshold from superficial thought to a place where few dare to go. the relationship between time and how we perceive life. Pay close attention. Every day something slips through your fingers without you even realizing it. I am not just talking about chronological time. I'm talking about lived time. The time that you feel. Modernity has taken away your ability to enjoy the moment. It has forced you to live with your mind constantly forward, as if life were a train you couldn't catch. You are always thinking about what will happen next, never about what is. They disconnected you from the present to keep you worried about the future. They taught you to fear stillness, distrust silence, and flee from the present as if it were an enemy, because stillness contains the uncomfortable truth you are desperately trying to avoid. Life does not wait for you somewhere ahead. Life is happening right now, as you listen to these words. The great irony is that as you run after a promised future that never arrives, the present crumbles right in front of you. Every second you spend avoiding the present moment is a second you will never get back. It does not return, is not repeated, and is not recoverable. And I'll ask you a brutal question right to the point. How many more seconds will you give to emptiness? Consider this. You are wasting not only time, but also your life. This is your only life. There are no replacements, backups, or second chances. This is it. You are only guaranteed this very moment. Here comes the final blow. When you finally understand and internalize this, everything changes. Priorities shift, masks fall. The need for external validation dissipates like smoke, and what remains is pure, authentic, and the only real thing. Your naked existence. You're being stripped of all embellishments, your life lived in its most raw and honest form. So instead of wondering what's next, ask yourself the only question that really matters. Am I living my life, or am I simply surviving in a system that has never taken me into account? If the answer does not satisfy you, that is fine. This means you still have time. You still have time to rebel against routine anesthesia. You still have time to reclaim your lived time, which is measured by your soul rather than clocks. This is when you can break the inertia. Not tomorrow, not if you have more money, not when the world grants you permission. Now, because if not now, it will never happen. Before you leave, I'd like to propose a small challenge. Yes, to those who have made it this far and have not given up in the face of these uncomfortable truths. Please leave a simple but brutally powerful sentence in the comments. I claim my time. By writing it, you are not only committing to yourself, but also sending a message to the world. You will no longer accept living on autopilot. You've woken up. You have opened your eyes. And if this video moved you, if it forced you to face the mirror you've been avoiding, subscribe to the channel. Not because I say so, but because we intend to continue dismantling all of the lies they have told you about life. And ring the bell because the next truths will be even more uncomfortable than this one. Remember, this channel is not a haven for conformists. It's a place for those who dare to think for themselves, who aren't afraid to confront the most brutal truths because they understand that discomfort is the price of freedom. Now, I'll leave you with this final image to accompany you as you close this video. Imagine life as a massive hourglass, and each grain that falls represents your life rather than time. How many more grains will you let fall without using them in the way you intended? Don't respond right now, but never forget it. If you choose to continue down this path of uncomfortable truths, we'll meet again in the next video. We'll meet, not when the algorithm says so, but when you're ready to truly open your eyes. Until then, live as if you're already free.